How a silly little idea made me an award-winning author by accident. This is a story of how I wrote my book, The Action Hero Teacher, Classroom Management Made Simple. For context, I have taught in some of the roughest parts of London for almost 2 decades, absolute donkey's years. Much of that time I spent helping children that had been excluded from mainstream schools or children that were vulnerable to antisocial behaviour. Basically, I was trying to stop kids from becoming the future versions of Deshane and Sully in Top Boy. So this gave me an absolute wealth of experience in handling young people, and I often had many of my colleagues coming up to me and saying, wow, you did really well with this young person. You know, you should write a book. And I thought to myself, nah, mate. So one day when I was at home, I floated the idea to my missus, and to my surprise, she didn't treat me like I'd been smoking some PCP. And she said, yeah, that's not really a bad idea. Why don't you go and write that book? So in 2018, I decided to act on that idea. But it was a big problem. I didn't know what the heck I was doing. At the time, I didn't have no publishers, social media, PR, no team, definitely no investment. But with my wife's belief and me watching a couple of Rocky reruns, I said to myself, you know what, let's crack on, let's get this book written, and I'm sure it's going to be an imminent success and it's going to make me millions of pounds. When I released that book in 2019, I only sold 35 copies. 30 of those copies were probably to family and friends, and 1 or 2 of those copies were to supply teachers who are bullied into buying it. At the time, I was embarrassed and I saw the project as a massive failure. I was written off by some friends and by some family. But 6 years later, writing The Action Hero Teacher, Classroom Management Made Simple is the single greatest thing that I ever did in terms of my career. I've won awards, gone up and down the country as a national speaker, been invited to help influence governmental policy on education, and I even won a fellowship in the Royal Society of Art, Commerce and Manufacture. If I looked at that first year and said, you know what, I'm going to cut everything off, I wouldn't be talking to you right now. Don't give up. Sometimes your silly little ideas could lead to seriously big things.